one of the things I picked up on over the years is that there's an incredibly high amount of quite terrible Wing Chun being taught. And it's actually something that you don't really see in the other styles, Chinese martial arts. And it's not really clear why that is, other than it appears that everybody has taken a stab at it and believes that their way is the best way and they teach that regardless. But I see a lot of we can argue forever about Tan Sao and how it should be done. It really doesn't actually matter that much. What matters is how well the principle is applied. So if the principle is well applied, then you can forget about lineage, you can forget about all these other things. It's how well that principle is applied. And what we see is a lot of time the principles of Wing Chun are not actually being applied correctly. So one of the things that you'll see, for instance, if you watch the punching video, so almost every Wing Chun video that I see, or what's being taught in general, is people being taught to punch like this, the shoulder up, and hyperextended. So we've gone too far here. This is just one example, but we see it all the time. So again, you want to be in here, not like this. But these kinds of like basic errors get transferred even to the teachers, who then continue to teach this. And a lot of them are at the schools that people think must be the best ones because they're the big commercial ones. Okay? But the reality is that this is not correct by the principles of Wing Chun, the principles of it. Forget about like this is our way of doing it. It's just wrong in terms of the principles of Wing Chun. Why? Because here, off balance, again, elbow, shoulder is too far forwards. Look, see, off balance. It can't be done, right? So when I see this kind of thing, like this, off balance, I'm leaning back, I'm off balance, leaning back, off balance. It's so basic. It's so basic that I'm not going to strike somebody in a way that's detrimental to me, right? Why am I going to do this? Why? When I can do it properly and control the opponent, come in and make a strike. So the Wing Chun principle, I'm not going to work against myself, right? So I'm not going to make my own life harder. Wing Chun is about simplicity. It's about the nearest weapon, nearest target, all of these things. So when I'm coming here and I'm making my own life harder, I'm leaning back, I'm extending my shoulder, doing everything that's actually wrong, not right, by the principles of Wing Chun. So balance is core fundamental part of Wing Chun, right? So why am I going to unbalance myself? It just makes no sense. So we see this time and time again. See, this, I'm not going to mention specific names, but this is just wrong. It's wrong. Well, this is wrong to do this. And I've explained why it's wrong as well. So stop doing it. Look, I'm off balance. Can't do it this way. Hyperextended, I'm off balance. Have to come in. Now some schools, or some lineages, maybe they'll teach out here, right? So I'm not as close as we like to get. Fair enough, okay? But that's not too bad. But when it gets to the point where you're literally like punching with the shoulder is forwards, I'm hyperextended, and I'm leaning off center. I'm leaning back. Look, broken my own center line. This is wrong. This is just fundamentally wrong, and it's one of the series of things. Now, see, time and time again in the vast majority of Wing Chun schools. Another common error that we see is people, again going back to breaking your own center line, is people starting to duck in Wing Chun as well, or bob and weave. The ducking, not so bad, but to bob and weave as a principle of Wing Chun, no, because you're breaking your own center line. So if I come here and I'm like this, and I'm, oh look, I've got Pak Sao on, this isn't right. For Wing Chun, it's not right. Why? Because as I break my own center by doing this, look, be pushed off if I do that, right? So, and if I'm doing this and covering at the same time, so I'm both doing that and that, like this. In Shaolin, you see this. It's different set of principles, different ideas. But in Wing Chun, you don't do this. But there's a reason you don't do it, okay? So you don't do this because you've broken your own center and I've crossed myself. So the hands should never cross in Wing Chun. You don't cross your own center line, right? So if I cross my own center line, look, yeah? If I'm here, I keep it on my side, on one hand, one side, not going over. This is learnt in Sir Nim Tao, in the first form. You learn this, or you should learn it. You don't shouldn't be doing Tan Sao out here. It goes along the center, right? So, when you start to see like this kind of thing in Wing Chun, it's not right. It's just not. It's not by the principles. In an emergency situation, yes. But when we're practicing, we're trying to make it as good as possible so that we can apply the principles properly. You don't do this. You just don't do it. Okay? So how would you do it? Well, first of all, if we're gonna do that, we need to move our whole body, right? So because the body moves, yeah. So so when I see this kind of thing applied on it's like this. It's because there's a punch coming in. There's a punch coming in, you deal with it with this side. If you need to Pak Sao, here, then I move my body. I'm not moving like just my head over here. Boom. Move the body. See, I've turned. And then as I turn, boom, then you can do something. And because I've turned, keeping my own center line, it means that this problem of overcommitting to here, where I've now broken my own center, and I can be, boom, like this, I can be trapped and pinned very easily. My balance broken. This problem is now eradicated, because here, see? It's totally different. So when you start to see like this kind of thing happening in Wing Chun, again, it happened, people doing Shaolin style, doing Xingyi, whatever it is different because the principle is different, okay? But once we see it in Wing Chun, where people doing this kind of thing, no, this is not Wing Chun. Now, the head bobbing itself, it's not that you can't bob the head even, but again, it's a case of like not breaking your own center. So if you learn to do this without breaking your own center, sometimes you can't move the head out of the way, right? But you would, at the same time, not be doing this where you're breaking your own center line, where you're going off in this direction. You're not going to compromise your own structure like that. So you maybe move the head all as one thing, okay? Or on the angle a little bit down, but not to the point at which you're completely breaking your own center. Because when that happens and people start to use that from other Wing Chun schools, for me, as soon as they do this, that's it, you're just going to go in. You just go in. They've compromised themselves. Now this is a gift. You do it crossing your own center is a complete gift. Look, boom. It's as simple as that. Now I'm showing you on myself, so you might think I'm just pushing myself around. But trust me, you try it on yourself. Here, I'm gonna push. I'm gonna go. Here, I'm not crossing my own center. Okay, and I'm pushing harder. Right, cross my own center, boom, it's gone. It's as simple as that. So we see a lot of these really quite terrible techniques coming out of what's called Wing Chun. But it's not Wing Chun according to the principles of Wing Chun. You can say that you've modified it if you want to. That's one way of looking at it. But to me, when it gets to the point where you're doing this and this kind of thing for no reason, there's no reason for it. You don't need to do it like that within the Wing Chun. So you're no longer doing Wing Chun. Okay? You could say you're doing like a Jeet Kune Do thing or something like that. It's fine. But don't call it Wing Chun. Because when you teach people this, you're teaching them the opposite of Wing Chun. You're teaching them to break their own center. You don't break your own center in Wing Chun, ever. That's a general principle. Now again, in a situation where you might have to, yes, of course, I'm not going to stand there. If you have to do this, then do it. If you have to. But it's not the starting point, and it's not really what you're learning in the system, because rather than doing that, which is a risk to you, because you've broken your own center, what you want to do, boom. See? Here. It's just one example. But when I see people doing this kind of thing in Wing Chun, it's just, look, it's not Wing Chun. It's just not. Okay? So, that's just one example. The other example is, like I was saying before, is that because it's harder to learn to go in, because it's unnatural, people, again, out here, too far, look. So it feels like you're safer because you're further away, boom, like this. See? Like that. So, again, it's this thing of breaking our own sin. Wing Chun, you just don't do this. You come in, okay? We'll come in, and you want to get close enough where the Wing Chun range actually works. This Wing Chun range doesn't really work out here. The range itself is just, it's between boxing and maybe wrestling, you could say. Okay, so boxing is, we've got this reach out here. Which one we want to be about here? So pretty close to the person, but not close enough to clinch. Okay, it's that range. So when you're doing this out here, like this is way too far for Wing Chun. Way too far. Way too far. You're applying Wing Chun at a boxing range, which is why people end up using boxing, right? It's for this exact reason, or something which isn't good boxing, but they try and apply it in this way because you have to learn bridge the gap, you have to do all these other things to make it apply to easier to a sparring situation or a fighting situation. Whatever the case, it's wrong from a Wing Chun perspective. If you can't apply at the right range and you're overcompensating like this, trying to from here, this will work in schools where everybody is training on the same wrong idea and in the same wrong way. But as soon as it's applied to any other style or a system that's doing things not within the correct principles of Wing Chun, you're going to have problems. Okay? It's simple as that. You will have problems when you start to go out, if you ever do, start to actually train with others who are doing this, who are doing even Wing Chun, and they're doing it properly or in a better way according to principles, and you start doing this kind of shit, you will be slaughtered. I guarantee it. It happens all the time when people do this, and it also happens when they go out and try other martial arts, right? So another big problem that we see is this kind of guard system. Again, leaning back way too far forwards, arms sticking out so I'm off balance. A lot of time the Wushu is kept over here, which makes no sense. Sometimes it's Tan Sao and you see it like this. I ask you now, anybody, I don't really care your level of skill or how good you think you are at that. If you're doing that, is there any possible way you can actually defend yourself? Right? So if I'm like this, yeah, that's nice in a movie, right? You know, like that, like in the Ip Man film. That's nice, but it's not going to work. I guarantee it's not going to work because that's again fundamentally misunderstanding the principles of Wing Chun system. Because I've hyperextended myself. I'm completely off balance. And when you see people doing this, and they're leaning back at the same time as if to somehow offset this mistake here, look what happens. It goes straight down, and they will go down with it, right? You can't have your arms open out like that and think that that's going to work. When someone's, say it's a Thai boxer or from even from another school, and they're not interested in doing this, playing this game with you, right? Where you go like this, it will just knock you out of the way, come forwards, or just grab onto it and punch you in. There's so many things you can do from there. But it's just fundamentally wrong. It's a fundamentally wrong way to do it. So here, I'm not leaning backwards, one. So I'm not hyperextended either. So this is all you really need here. Yeah, you can extend it a little bit, but not like this. Not like where it's all the way out. Again, elbows at the lowest point, etc. So these are some of the most common mistakes and errors that we see in Wing Chun. And it's just one example. But Wing Chun is unique in that the vast majority of schools actually don't teach it properly. Okay? That's something that I've not found in other Chinese martial arts, which aren't really widely taught in the UK, to be fair. Nonetheless, they don't have, there's not so much crazy like bullshit there where it just doesn't make any sense at all. You don't see really Hungar or Choi Li Fa students with such a wide variation when everyone's saying, okay, the way I was taught to do it was like this, and so I'm definitely going to do it like that, whether or not it makes sense and whether or not it's in line with the principles of the system. So something that's kind of unique to Wing Chun in that sense. There's always variation in any school, in any system, even within schools, even within classes, even from student to student and teacher to student. Everyone got a slightly different way. But that's not the same as something that's outright wrong. And doing shit like this is outright wrong. And you look like you're trying to do a Yip Man movie, right? That's what it looks like. Like this. Look at me. I must be doing, this is Wing Chun. No, it's not Wing Chun, because anyone can get through this. If I'm just sticking my arm out like that, of course, this is just going to end in disaster. So that was just some thoughts on Wing Chun and why we see so much terrible Wing Chun. And a few of the basic errors that I've seen time and time again. It's not really acceptable because people are dedicating themselves to something, they're trying to learn a new skill, and that skill is often just not being taught correctly. So that was just some thoughts on it. If you stay within the principles and the principles are understood, then you can't veer too far from what is the correct or a good way of doing things. If you don't do that, then you will veer off the road, and that's when you end up doing stupid shit like this or stupid shit like this. It just makes no sense. You don't need to do it, and it's anti-Wing Chun. You can break rules of a system when you're in trouble, like big trouble, or when you've really got to the top, you've understood everything, and then you know how to break those rules, but not at the level that it's being applied at. It's needless. Okay? Thanks, and take care. Bye.